Ah, yes. Patent medicine is great stuff, and this one is made with actual petroleum because drinking petroleum is good for you. Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Hi everyone, it's George the Antique Nomad, and I am doing a bucket list thing today. I am with my dear friend Susan. We did the show this weekend and I stayed over so that we could have an afternoon at the Henry Ford Museum, and I understand they let you take pictures. So I'm here mainly to be a sightseer and a tourist, but I will try to share some of this with you as well because it is an amazing museum. Wow, so this is the entrance. There are a lot of huge exhibits and amazing exhibits, and I cannot wait to see it all. So we're gonna see as much as we can. This is a really neat display of art pottery with a timeline and discussion of its origins. A lot of it did originate in the Midwest because a lot of the women coming out to what was the frontier then had to learn to do china painting in order to decorate things for their house because they couldn't necessarily get them commercially. But then that developed into a lot of commercial potteries that then made artware. And this is a great bunch of different pieces. It's so much time could be spent showing this, and it would be very educational. I wish I had more time to show you, but a few highlights. This is an unusual Weller piece here. The piece next to it is Tiffany, and then next to that is Newcomb. Newcomb is a very important early art pottery out of New Orleans, Louisiana. There's a wonderful museum there. And most of these were designed and decorated by women. This Sicard line is another Weller line that was very unusual and way ahead of its time with that metallic glaze. This is one of the last Rookwood pieces. This is a nice Weller console bowl in the woodcraft pattern with the little frog on it. The frogs were the hallmark of that line. This Red Wing piece is one that you will see out in the wild. Yes, I like the purple and gray a lot. So Henry Ford was asked by a neighbor in Pennsylvania when he was 19 if he could help him with his steam engine because he wasn't sure how to make it run again. Years later, Ford said that by getting a grip on this engine, he got a grip on himself and saw the future that he envisioned for himself as a mechanic and maker of mechanical devices. He went back and found it and bought it years later after he had made a success, and here it is in the museum. This is a 1865 Roper steam carriage, so this is the oldest surviving American automobile. I had no idea that there were Americans trying to do this before the 1870s Selden patent on cars. How neat. And then this is a nice little thing, much more convenient than having to hook up a horse. Much less reliable though.
Room.
I see these little, in fact I sold one of these at the show yesterday, the little visor mirror, although mine didn't have the service record information on it.
I would like one with the service record so I could take the stuff off my windshield.
Exactly, me too. And it was only the second car to go coast to coast through the United States. It took 61 days to go from San Francisco to New York City because the roads were so bad, particularly west of the Mississippi and in the south. I like his result. I do not care to make the trip again.
Those look masculine, even citing it as a reason that women shouldn't drive.
Oh, brother. Anything to put women down back then, boy. Oh, the French invented the bullhorn. I did not know that. And then here's something you'd put over when you had to drive in horrible roads. This was the early studded tire. It was something you put over your tire. I like showing this stuff because somewhere in a barn somewhere, there's still some of these hanging around that people would not necessarily be able to identify. I have seen pictures of this before. I didn't realize it had been preserved. This is from the IBM Pavilion at the 1964 World's Fair. It was a kiosk. So Ray and Charles Ames designed this. Interesting. Suggesting carousel, fairground, and bandstand architecture. Yeah, very different from their work and very different from what was going on with IBM at that time. It certainly looks like something much older than it is. But the Ames, you said, did a lot of designs here in Detroit. Yeah. I always think of them as California, but I forget they had the Cranbrook studio, right? Here's another cool display where they show all the parts of an Ames chair. These were also designed in Cranbrook, not far from here. And they have it all taken apart. This one's got the, well, I don't even know what to say about it other than it's just a classic design and so comfortable. And many knockoffs, but this is the original. Look at the button patterns, because the knockoffs, these usually vary. How cool to see one of these. I see these little die casts of the Texaco tankers, but wow. Yeah, exactly. But to see a real one in person, that is really neat. And there's the front end of our Texaco. This is a Dodge based on the Airflow styling. They did a car that looked like this that wasn't a big success at the time, but was really radically aerodynamic compared to everything else and did spur future innovation. Ah, yes. Patent medicine is great stuff, and this one is made with actual petroleum, because drinking petroleum is good for you.
The Jungle, a lurid tale of abuses in Chicago stockyards.
Oh yeah, it was really bad. My mother read it when she was quite young, like 9 or 10 years old, and then she won a prize for something, and they took them to the Chicago stockyards, and between the two of them, she wouldn't eat meat. Some more really great cars. The Bluebird is a jitney bus built in 1927. You see that it's open, but it has a roll-down panel in case it's a nasty day. This little thing here is a cycle car. This was an idea for a while, is to combine motorcycle and bicycle technology with cars to make little light cars that were inexpensive and fun to get around in. And they were just a little unrugged for the conditions of the time. And then this one, on the other hand, was very rugged. This is a 1974 Warrior. And it was basically for developing nations where people didn't have good roads. And it worked for that. I talk about coverlets a lot, but of course this is a great museum, so it's going to have a great selection. And look, this one's quite early. Agriculture and manufacturers are the foundation of our independence, July 4th, 1830. Wow, and there's the maker, I assume? That is really neat, and the patriotic design is especially unusual. This one also has the eagle and liberty.
These are some great.
These are really beautiful ones. They keep making these through the 1880s approximately. Agnes van Buskirk, 1839. We see these multicolored in the 1840s. You were going to tell me something.
Fred and Margaret Brusher. Brusher was the longest running antique show in Ann Arbor.
Oh, really? Oh, so this is part of their collection.
Yeah. She just got too old to do it anymore. No one took it over. It's
sad
because it was a great show.
Oh, I bet. I mean, if this was her collection, I imagine she really knew her antiques.
Yeah.
Yes, the Jacquard loom came in the 1820s, so that's why you don't see them before that. Yes, a Suburban, exactly, back when that was Plymouth rather than a GM, and it's one of the first all-steel station wagons. It was a big deal. Yeah, I love the wheels. And then this came along. Speaking of station wagons, this is what largely replaced station wagons. This is a 1983 Dodge Caravan. This is the origin of the vehicle that I drive now. The first hybrid car, a 1916 Woods dual power hybrid coupe. This is neat. This is an actual patent model. You had to build a model of what you were going to have patented so they could look it over, and it had to be very realistic so that they knew whether you were copying someone else's patent or not. Patent models are very collectible and very valuable, typically in the $8,000 to $10,000 range for something that was machinery, even more for something that became a very famous product.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a quick break and thank you for watching this video. If you're enjoying it, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Also, please do subscribe because then you can click that bell to be notified of future videos. We have membership packages. There's a couple of different levels. We appreciate the support of our super fans who help us do extra bonus content. You can check that out by hitting the join button below or clicking the link in the description. And lastly, we want to ask you to check out our new channel, the Antique Nomad Live. That's live with an exclamation point, where we're doing additional content of a live nature, hauls, sales, bonus stuff. We'll have a lot of fun there too. So check us out here on the Antique Nomad and also on the Antique Nomad Live. Now let's get back to this video.
Yeah, you look at that car and you automatically know who that is.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an FDR era car, 1939, yep. 39 Lincoln, and Lincolns were big, big cars back then. It's interesting that Ford got so many of the presidential cars in their line. Ford was actually a little behind the times when a lot of these were made, so it's interesting they picked them over GM for this. They have a whole hall of presidential cars, and this one was Dwight D. Eisenhower's, and it has the bubble top. This was so popular after he was seen in it, it was built in 1950, that they then made bubble top cars in the late 50s for regular people to buy. The only problem is it was like a greenhouse and they were horrible to sit in, so it didn't last very long. So this was the presidential limousine in which JFK was riding when he was assassinated. They modified it afterwards and it continued to serve through the, I believe, the Ford administration, and then they got a new one after Jimmy Carter became president. It's a 61 Lincoln, and you can see that it was no longer a convertible and that they armored it heavily. A white Model G steam touring car, and this was another presidential car. This would have been in the Taft administration. This would have been a colonial era kitchen, and it is much more primitive and basic. As you see, you might have the spinning wheel near the fire because you do a lot of spinning in your off time, such as it was. The metal plates, you notice some of these are wood. Most people ate off wood. The pewter was something that you had if you had lots of money. Turned out it wasn't very safe to eat off of pewter because it had lead and tin in it, and the lead was not good for you.
The other one's what you see all the time.
Yeah.
I've never seen this.
I haven't seen a dry sink with an open base either, and the painting is very primitive, which I like.
Are so cool.
Yeah, all handmade, and they've got those bands around them like firkins.
Yeah.
Neat. And the bread bowl, you can tell this one is real. We're seeing tons of reproductions. Look for the wear and the patina. They should be darker in some places and lighter in others, and that's going to be how, and chopped up yet, because they would have definitely chopped and cut in there. Very cool. And this says circa 1840. Kitchens really would have looked like this pretty much through the 19th century in most houses. Now this is the 1890s kitchen. You would have had all sorts of cabinets and cupboards because you would have needed them because nothing was built in. You would have had a dry sink, which is this unit here, meaning that water could be pumped in from a well, or you could just use it without and bring in pitchers of water as necessary. There's a kitchen clock. When you see that style, that was intended for the kitchen. Sometimes they would have alarms in them. Let's see if we can bring that in a little closer. And when you see these old kerosene lanterns, this is what they need to be complete. The mercury glass piece behind it is to reflect light. And then you'd have a bracket and a holder, and then the kerosene lantern would sit on top of it, and you see it has a ledge there at the bottom of the base of the lamp so that it stays in place. I love museums that set up things where you can see how people really lived at a certain point in time. This is a classic 1920s kitchen. We see a lot of these things for sale out on the market. The monitor top refrigerator. That engine being on top means you have lots of cabinet space, but it is really heavy to lift out of there. I bought one once and sold it and swore I'd never do that again. And the kitchen queen is great. The stove, that was a very newfangled 1920s stove, and you've got this nice little utility table. The ironing board that folded out is a classic in homes of this era. What's that? You have 2 ironing boards that fold out? Oh, neat. Oh, that's great. Well, I'll have to put your Facebook link or something in. Here's a few other cars that ring some bells with me. The gigantic green Chrysler. They were nicely styled for a giant car of that time. A friend of mine had the station wagon version. Actually, his parents had it, and he destroyed it, driving it badly, and then they blamed Chrysler and never bought another one. Poor Chrysler. The Cougar here, my 3rd grade teacher had, and I thought she and it were so beautiful together. I had a real crush on both of them. And then the blue Corona is exactly the same color, same 4-door. This was the first new car my parents bought. My dad was used to driving big old American cars, and he destroyed it. Within 4 years, it was completely junk because he just stomped on it and drove it like a big American car. One of the reasons that the stove display is here is because before the auto industry, Detroit already had nearly 500,000 people because they were a big center of stove making, amongst other things.
Largest retail establishment in Michigan. What does it say? Nobly Company?
No, Mabley, I think.
Mabley?
So this is Detroit before cars.
Well, look at down here, you got Butters, Cheese and Honeys, and then you got department store.
I was looking at the heating stoves and I completely missed all these really great hanging lamps. Yeah, that's beautiful. Before Fenton, there was CoinSpot. And the advertising for pure wine and liquor, that's really neat. Oh, and this one says police on it.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah. So that'd be 1890s from a police station. How interesting. Just one great display after another. There is a rather fine pot-bellied stove. Oh, I love the birds, yeah. Nickel, this would have been in a very expensive home. All of this is Michael Graves' design. I knew he was a big designer and did a lot of commercial stuff, but I did not realize he did such a wide variety. I did not know that he did ceramics, for example, or toilet brushes. But yeah, he's a great, the Alessi teapot set is really amazing. 1983, when that big blocky geometry came back into design. How cool. Yeah, I knew Michael Graves mostly as an architect. I had no idea he designed so much, but a lot of industrial designers. Interesting. So this is an interesting little carriage. 1792 to 1802, it says. This would have been very fancy for the passenger to be taken in a chariot without having to have any dust. But what a small compartment. Of course, people were a lot smaller then, too. This would have been one of the first made in America after the Revolution. Oh, you sold this weekend? What'd you get for it?
Let me look at my book.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
Interesting. Yeah, these are cool, actually.
The guy that had the compact that you opened for me, he bought.
Oh,
he
neat.
looked at both pieces, and he bought that one. Didn't pick it.
I always loved the 1930s World's Fairs because of the Deco influence, San Francisco and Chicago.
But you only collect Seattle, right?
I used to collect the Deco ones, and now I just collect Seattle.
That's what I thought.
Just because I had to narrow down to something, you know, you get to where you only have so much space. But I love World's Fair stuff because it's so much about the future. Oh, that's cool. So pieces of a Ford turned into a wall mural. I love that.
Yeah.
What a great idea. I wish that still existed somewhere, but at least we get to see the picture.
Streamlined the 36 Ford Coupe and its V8 engine.
And a Toastalator. I have never had it. This is on my bucket list of things as a dealer I'd like to have once, where you put the toast in and it goes around in a circle and comes out the other end. But I think they're a couple $100. I haven't seen one for less than $2.25 in years. This is neat. They took an old 1910 era Fordson tractor and did a cutaway so you can see all of the things that make it work.
Oh, I love that.
Look at the beautiful trophy.
Yeah, I love the trophy.
Won by a Model A Ford. Well, and a person driving it, who I guess should get some credit.
Dad was mad at me and bought us a regular car seat, but I had that, so it didn't cost me anything.
Oh yeah, well, you know, that's what car seats were like, and it's actually good to see them, because a lot of people would see that like in an estate sale and they wouldn't know what it was.
Right.
I've only seen one or two actually. They even have an early Northwest airline hanging from the top. Well, there is so much to see here. This is such an amazing place. I will have to come back today and show you more. It's just been so great to get to see this for the first time. I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come see me again here with more adventures from the world of antiques and vintage. We might not be able to take these things home, but they certainly inspire us to look for things related to them out in the wild. So I hope this was fun for you like it was for me. Catch me on the social media you see below. Subscribe if you would, so you can click that bell to be notified of future videos, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye now. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.